Daffodill is one of the most broken characters in Neverness to Everness right now. She has insane break damage, crazy burst potential, insanely fast rotations, and she has one of the highest boss shredding capabilities in the game. Problem is, her kit actually has quite a bit of skill ceiling. If you don't understand how her inside stacks, support skill scaling, or phantom step parries work, you're missing out on a ton of damage. So today I'm breaking down everything you need to know about Daffodill in Neverness to Everness, from her teams and builds to even her awakenings and Esper abilities, so you can start shredding bosses with her as of now. Welcome guys, I'm Akira, and let's dive right into it. In this guide we will go through her Esper abilities, arcs, console build, teams and rotations, awakenings, and their pros and cons. So let's start with the Esper abilities. Daffodill has a few combo strings you can use, but for that we first need to understand their basic attacks and everything else. So let's start with her basic attacks. This is what her 5 basic attacks look like. Then when you hold her basic attack you trigger a branch attack, which looks like kind of this like yo-yo you pull through. So this is her heavy. They call it branch attack, but it's an heavy attack. And as you can see it deals massive break damage. Then here comes a part of Daffodill's kit. In her skill description, as you can see, there's redirect skill resonance and redirect skill echoes. And these things basically scale with support abilities from your other characters. So this is what the normal skill looks like. This skill can be enhanced up to twice. If you cast 2 support skills to Daffodill, then it will be enhanced. This is what it looks like. And this basically deals a massive chaos damage and as well break damage. Then her ultimate is quite simple. Her ultimate in itself deals damage and applies insight, which is this stack right here. What this insight does is, as the game is telling you, if the enemy is broken during the effect, if you finish this bar, then they will be dealt more damage than if you were not using insight on them, basically boosting Daffodill's break damage. And as you can see, it will be allowed to cast Phantom Step up to 2 times. To cast Phantom Step, you just need to switch to another character and then switch back to Daffodill. To fully make use of Daffodill's kit, in this case Phantom Step, you need to know that you have to try eating the true parries as often as you can. And if you eat Phantom Step with the true parry, as you can see, it fully refunded my ultimate cost, which means I can now basically have Phantom Step 2 more times. And now that you know what her kit does and that is heavily focused on break damage, let's move on to what her skills actually do. So we have her passive 1, which basically reduces the break cap by 10% when the enemies are affected by Discord, and this can basically go up to 20%, so you can cast Discord twice on the enemy and reduce their break bar by 20%. And then you have her second passive, which increases her Phantom Step damage by 80%, and if you do the Phantom Step damage when you're doing the true parry, this basically just means you have an absolute machine gun of Phantom Steps ready to destroy any boss and deal tons of break damage to literally any boss in the game or any enemy that has a parry. You also have her life skill, which is okay, but it's not like the best life skill in the game. As for the upgrade order, you will want to upgrade passive 1 and passive 2 almost at the same time if you can afford to, as well as basic attack. So these 3 will take priority: basic attack, passive 1, passive 2. After that you want to upgrade your ultimate and your skill with the same priority, and lastly you want to upgrade her support skill since it's the thing you will use the least. Now let's move on to her best arc. Her best arc is by far Youthful Fantasy, and this is a free S rank arc you can get by defeating an anomaly boss in the world. This arc gives her base attack, attack percent, and break intensity, and the thing that makes this arc the best for Daffodill is the arc Black Tome. This basically just summons a book on the ground. That book will link a chain to an enemy every 5 seconds during 20 seconds, and it will increase the damage dealt to that enemy by 24%, chaos damage only, and if you break the enemy during that time where the chain is linked to the enemy, it will deal a massive 233% of your attack as damage to that enemy. And you might wonder why this is not used to other characters. Obviously, first of all, Daffodill is the only chaos character in the game right now, and second of all, this Black Dome arc skill has basically 2 chains on it, and you unlock those chains each time you cast a support skill. So, which character can cast support skills based on his teammates? Daffodill. And Daffodill will unleash both chains, and basically after that you're just demolishing bosses and break bars and everything is chaos, and you're just hearing the break effects and damage is flowing everywhere. In case you still don't have this arc, which it's very doubtful at this point in the game, you can try using Fluff of Fleetness, which is a second best one. However, keep in mind that you will not be able to use all the attack stacks on Daffodill because she will not be in the field for more than 5 seconds each time. Then you also have Shiny Days, which is an A rank arc, and finally Mind Royale, another A rank arc. But to be honest, there's no excuse for you to not have Youthful Fantasy. It's her best arc by far and it's free. And now let's move on to her console build. Obviously with her you want to run Diablo's set, and for the main attributes on her cartridge you want to aim for crit rate, crit damage, break intensity, or chaos damage, in this order. On modules, this is the lineup I'm going with, and basically you just want to fit as many type 3 modules as possible while also keeping the Diablo set. You can always fit 4 type 3 modules, which will upgrade your chaos damage by 40%, and then you fill the rest to include the Diablo set. Feel free to copy the arrangement if you want to, otherwise if you find something else that works for you, then it really doesn't matter as long as you can fit the 4 type 3 modules and Diablo set. For the substats on these modules, you want to aim for crit rate, crit damage, attack percent, damage percent, flat attack, and finally break intensity. And Daffodill is a bit of a different character, so you have 2 different stat goals at level 80, depending on whether you have 2 specific awakenings or not, which we will get later on the video. If you have no awakenings, your stat goals for Daffodill at level 80 should be 20,000 HP, 2.3k attack, 45% crit rate, 90% crit damage, 10% universal damage, 50% chaos damage, and 150 break intensity. Obviously, these stats are the minimum. If you have more than that on every single one, perfect. Now, if you're using A3 and A5 awakenings on Daffodill, these are the stat goals that you want to aim for. HP and attack will remain the same, crit rate will be 30%, crit damage will be 60%, universal damage will be the same, chaos damage will be 40%, and you want 350 plus break intensity. For our team comps and rotations, you have 2 main options. The first one being the Discord theme, which I ignore the name up top. This team is basically Daffodill, Sakiri, Baisong, and Aniel, and this team just basically revolves around Daffodill's passive 1 because it allows her to proc Discord multiple times, stack them on top of each other, and overall make Daffodill a beast. Then you have this option, which is the Scorch team, basically with Adler instead of Aniel, which I'll be honest, I don't recommend this one. This one doesn't make use of Daffodill's passive 1. This team basically revolves around all the characters, just farming their reactions and swapping to Daffodill to reapply Scorch every single time. If you've seen my previous video on how to properly build your teams in 90E, you know about the cycle enhancements, etc. And this team just tries to maximize the cycle enhancements on Scorch. In case you're missing Baisong, I recommend you try to use Aurelia on A6. If you don't have Aurelia A6, then it's not gonna work, but in case you have Aurelia A6, you can try using Azure DPS on any of the teams. Now let's move on to our awakenings, and remember that in this game you can choose whichever awakening you want, and then you can swap back and forth to just try every single awakening. So we'll go by order, and then I'll tell you my opinion on which awakenings are more worth it than the others. So the first awakening is called I, and just increases your resonance damage by 100% and your break by 250% per support skill cast. So once again, just overall playing with their kit. Array 2 is good, but it's mostly in case you're fighting like a wave of enemies with no parry. So let's say you're doing Beyond the Rails and you're doing AoE floors and some enemies of those don't have parry animations, you can use A2 because it basically just deals damage and it gives back your ultimate energy even if you don't parry. Array 3 is amazing because if you remember, her ultimate debuffs the enemy with Insight, which makes them take more break damage, but it then disappears after you break them. A3 makes so that the buff not only doesn't disappear, but you can also apply it twice. Array 4 is basically only useful if you already have Array 3, because Array 4 boosts your break damage by 15% for each stack of Insight, so you can boost it up to 30%. Then Array 5 is just completely broken because it deals 1 additional instance of break damage per stack of Insight. Let's say you only have A5 and you ultimate your enemy and you break him, you will deal 2 instances of break damage. If you have A3 as well and you apply 2 stacks, you will deal 3 instances of break damage, which at level 80 with the stat goals that I told you, 350 plus break intensity, Daffodill will just demolish enemies, like you will be eating for hundreds of thousands of damage. And then A6 just basically ignores 15% of the target's defense. My personal ranking on awakenings and their importances would be A5, A3, A4, A6, A1, and then A2. For our rotation with the Discord team, it will look something like this on the screen right now. So our rotation would look something like this. We start with Aniel, we ult, we redirect skill, we go to Daff just to proc Nova, we go to Sakiri, we redirect skill and we ult, more buffs for us. We go to Daff, we proc Discord, we ult with Daff, and we have not only the tome unlocked, but we have our skill enhanced. We proc the tome, we skill, we go to Baisong, apply silence on him, ult as well with Baisong. And then you just want to wait for the parries to actually use Phantom Step. If it takes too long in giving you the parries, don't hesitate to just go to Daff, since you have 2 instances. And we broke him, as you've seen it was massive damage, so now you won't be getting up and we'll just finish this. As I've just said, if possible, you want to wait for the true parries to regenerate your ult. In this case, since I broke him, then there was no way he was gonna give me the parry. If you do this rotation properly while waiting for the true parries, you will be able to have basically full uptime on Daffodill's ults and Aniel and Sakiri, and the rotation will be seamless. Another cool trick to know about Daff is that you can actually hold her heavy, swap characters, and actually go back to Daff and finish the combo, because she will do the heavy animation completely. Look, she will do the heavy, I go to Bysong, and then I go back to Daff. Once again, just for demonstration purposes, heavy, Bysong, Daff. And as you can see, it deals the full combo and you start the basic attack on the third string. You're probably never gonna use this unless you really need to, and it's just a very niche moment, but it's still cool to know. And now let's move on to her pros and cons. For her pros, she's basically just a strong fit for quick swap team structures with minimal field time required, as I've just shown you in the rotations. She provides very reliable break-based control, effective even against bosses, like she demolishes the break bars, and not only gives you that control over the fight, it also gives you insane damage when you build Daffodill properly. She basically converts your team activity into damage through the support skill synergy and resonance scaling on her resonance skill. This basically means that even your supports will be actually actively participating in the damage through Daffodill. She basically has 100% uptime on her ultimate if rotated properly. She can fit in a lot of teams. She is the only Chaos character in the game right now, which makes her value super good. And another very niche one, but she can really help you with owner's selection minigame at the start. She will increase traffic and reduce the consumption rate of ingredients. If you're starting the game now and you want to grind your cafe, then she is a good choice. As for the cons, she requires a lot of discipline in her rotations, since most of her damage scales depending on how frequently you swap her in, and sometimes it might be tempting to just swap her in and then you miss the true parry timing because you fell into temptation, and now you just missed out on Daffodill's insane damage. She does not perform well if you are playing a team where rotating is not very often. If you're playing a team where she requires a lot of field time, then you're missing out on Daffodill's potential as well. And break damage is contribution based, which means break damage in this game basically takes all the characters that contributed to the break bar and then gives damage off of that. So if your team doesn't have a lot of break intensity, you will not do a lot of break damage with Daffodill regardless. So yeah, this was my guide on Daffodill, one of the most amazing characters in this game. Her design is cool, she's strong, and just all in all, just a great character. If you know how to play her properly, then you won't have any issues defeating bosses in this game. Her boss shredding capabilities are through the roof, so just go have fun with her, destroy bosses, and if this guide helped you, let me know in the comments, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time, guys. Bye bye.